everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Private Practice Show. I am so excited because tonight we're going to be talking to Marcia Church, who is an amazing private practitioner. And tonight we're going to be talking about branding. This is something that Marcia is really good at and really passionate about, is branding. And the other thing we're going to talk about is boundaries, which is as do I. So I've gotten to know Marcia as a student in the Grow Your Private Practice program, and she has done amazing things. So let me go ahead and bring her on. Hey, Marcia, how's it going?
Hey, Jenna, how are you? Happy summer.
Happy summer. Oh my gosh. But you're going to laugh. And everyone who's watching, type in the chat. When does summer start where you live? Because my poor kids have a whole nother month of school left. Because we live in Boston, and we also had a teacher strike situation. Anyway, my poor kids have literally a whole nother month.
Oh my gosh, they would sweat their faces off in Texas going into the month of July or all through June. But yes, no, we started summer last Thursday. So it's been, I don't even know what day it is. I've lost count. Now it's one of those.
One of those.
Yes.
Yes, I know. And a couple people are saying in there, that they've just dropped their kids off at camp and other things going on. And so, yes, I think we're all across the country in totally different situations, whether people are working in schools, whether or not, people have kids and whatnot. But y'all, the reason why I wanted to bring Marcia on was a couple of reasons. And one of them is because you have been such an amazing example of someone who started a private practice and then grew it in like a really cool way by not just expanding your practice, but like your entire business and offering other things. So I want to talk about that. But the other thing that I also want to talk about is how, oh, hold on. I think we lost Marcia for a second. Or we lost me. We lost somebody. Let's see. Okay, we're back. All good. Okay, so Marcia has really expanded her private practice or her business, right? To not just have the practice part of her business, but have some other really cool things with her business. And I think that is super cool. And then the other thing that I think is really cool that I want to get to is also how good you've always been about boundaries and your family with your business. So is that okay if we talk about those things and whatever else comes up?
Yes, absolutely. Let's bring it on.
Perfect. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know you, can we start off, do you mind introducing yourself and telling people a little bit about how you got into private practice?
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of my 20s. I graduated in Ohio when I was 22 years old with my master's degree, and I was single and wild and free. So I spread my wings. I worked for a huge contracting company in the schools for 7 years. I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, Los Angeles, San Diego, and then Dallas is obviously where I ended up. I met my husband like 2 years going into living in Dallas. We're now married, have 2 kids. And then I was working in the schools full time, and one of my friends was like, you should try home health. And I was like, okay, why not? So then I was working PRN after schools. And then I was like, well, this is great. I really like this. I like this one-on-one compared to the 80 kids that I had on my caseloads all across the country. And I was like, okay, well, let's see where the wind blows. And so I ended up taking a management position with that home health company. And I was like, ooh, I really like to manage people. This like leadership thing came really naturally to me. And I was like, I can't believe they're giving me this job. And I was like 27 or something. And I was managing women that had been in the field for like 30 years. But it was something that I had taken and I was really good at it. And I'm like, I remember that. So then my husband played for the NFL and we left Dallas because he had to go play for 2 years in Jacksonville, Florida. So I had my son, he was 10 months old. And I was like, guess what, guys? I'm not going to be a speech therapist. I'm going to turn into a stay-at-home mom. And so I kept up all my CEUs and everything. So I was like educating myself, but I was really honestly just not even thinking about the field. I didn't even know that world of SLPs lived on Instagram, right? So I was cruising around in my car between Pilates and, just being a stay-at-home mom in Florida. And I found your podcast. So then I had listened to like almost every single check mark. It was like my to-do list. I'm like, I'm going to listen to this woman because she knows what she's talking about. And I feel like when I do jump back into the field, like, because I knew that I just don't have the personality to stay at home for like that long, right? Like some women can really do it. And I mean, it's a hard job to be a stay-at-home mom. So like, kudos to anybody listening right now that is a stay-at-home mom, because it is probably the hardest job I've ever had to be full-time at it. So, finally, when I was listening to everything, I had like my whole checklist that you had shared. And so I was tuned in. when we moved back to Dallas, I was like, okay, when my daughter, because then we had another child, when she starts kindergarten, I'm going to start my practice. Jokes on me, because then the pandemic happened. And then a year after the pandemic, so we're all home now because my husband retired. And so there's my husband and my son, and then my new baby. She just turned 1. And a former coworker at that home health company reached out and asked if I would evaluate her son. And so I knew that I had to get all of my ducks in a row, because I knew that this evaluation that I was going to write for this child was going to be shown to another referral source. So I did it. And I was like, okay, well, here I go. So I had that one client. It was 2022. No, one. So I had my 2 clients the whole year of 2021, because we were building a house, and it was just, my daughter was still really little. And so I didn't even have a website. People that don't have a website yet, right? So I was just, my ducks were in a row. And then that's when in January of 2022, I launched my website.
I love that, right? I love everything about that, right? I love that you kind of like go where the wind blows a little bit, right? But also like had in the back of mind, like, hey, I actually like leadership. I like kind of being in control of my situation. And I also want to make sure that I'm doing something that like prioritizes, my family and everything else. So it's always interesting to me, like how people come to private practice. And so thank you for sharing. So you started off, you had those 2 clients, you also had 2 kids at home. And then kind of like what happened next?
Well, then I knew, that's why like branding is so important to me, because when I knew that if I was going to put anything out into the world, that it had to be a certain like level of elevation, that I wanted it to attract my ideal clients, and I didn't want to have to do it twice. So like I'm that person that is like, if I'm going to do it good, I'm going to do it great, and then I won't have to redo it. Like I just did my rebrand for my other job. We can talk my other business. We can talk about that later, but we're just talking about my private practice brand. And so I did, that was a huge investment. But I did it. And after I launched my website, that was January of 2022. And guess what, guys? I fell down and went boom, getting off the Bunny Hill ski lift in Aspen, and tore my ACL. Not even the fact that they had to put me in a toboggan and take me down the slopes. I had to then go tell my husband, there was like 12 of us on a group trip, that I tore my ACL and I needed knee surgery. And our house was still like in a disaster of like 3 years into this build, and I couldn't even walk up the hill because I was on crutches. I had to do full rehab. It was a very hard time. So let's just say,
hold on one second. Your husband made it through the NFL without tearing his ACL.
No, he tore his
but you were on
Achilles. No, he tore his Achilles, and I played nurse. So like, this is fair game now, okay? He tore his, I tore mine. Now we're even, and we're not knocking on wood, okay? No more tearing. So yes, no. But yes, he was, wheeling me out in a wheelchair to the hospital. It was bad. So I had to go through surgery, and that was a very hard time. And I remember that same paralysis that I felt when my PT told me to jump. And I looked at her like, I cannot physically, like, I can't jump. And she was like, yes, you can. But it was because my mind was telling my body that I couldn't do it. Just like when people like are so fearful of starting private practices, or when they're so fearful of insurance, so fearful of the unknown. And so like, once you really can get that mindset of, and like push through your fear, amazing things can happen. As I sit here today, a lot of what has happened is because I pushed through that fear. And so anyways, I recovered and learned some things about myself as like a therapy client that I help parents relate to now. And then we moved in and we had our podcast interview that fall of 2022. And I had, again, never posted a job, but I now have a growing where there's 5 therapists in addition to me. And so, yes. And so navigating that, and some of them are going to be coming into it. There's one that is going to be a full-time employee here soon. So we are going to transition to, W-2 and all the things with the new changes. But so after that, January or 2022, it was just me and the feeding therapist. And then 2023 was a lot of growth. But at that fall in 2022 is when the stock photos came to play.
Which are beautiful, by the way. I don't know. Tell people who are listening/watching what website to go to look at the stock photos.
It's speechstarsbranding.com. And so I realized that when I was doing my marketing and I had all my branding photos, that a lot of people were asking me about them. But then going on Canva and everything, like they just weren't an accurate depiction of what speech therapy is. So I'm like, you know what, let me reach out to my photographer and see if we can get a hold on this and give a solution, an affordable solution to what all of the investment that I had made up front. So then that's when I curated the website kit with my web designer and then the stock photos with my photographer, and came up with a more affordable solution to just get started but still look elevated, compared to the $4,500 that I personally spent when I got started. And so that's kind of like where that took off. And since I have a passion for pictures, because like if you ask my mom or my college roommates, like I always had pictures on the walls. Like I know you have Post-it notes, right? Like I associate you with Post-it notes. I'm not a Post-it note kind of girl, but it's like pictures, like you can just post them anywhere. And so that was big for me, and that was like my little passion project that I had started, and it is still growing. So then pairing with like now moving forward, we have treated over well, I've had 250 referrals, we've done over 2,000 visits. And that's just something to say, is because I still have stuck to my boundary. When I sat there on that podcast a year and a half ago with you and I said, I am not seeing clients other than on Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 to 3. That has not budged. And so now I have a current wait list for people that want me, like there's, and so I try to staff with others, but if they're like, no, I'll wait, well, then you can wait. But I would recommend you go somewhere else in the meantime, because I'm not budging. You can want me, but you can't have me right now. I'm going to stick to this boundary really, like I said I was, because my daughter's still not going to be in kindergarten or full-time school until like a whole nother year. So not even till fall of 2025. And I'm not rushing it because they're only little for a small amount of time.
Yes. And I love that. And as a parent of two small kids, like I also totally get that, right? Because you're right. I mean, you do want to spend as much time with your kids as possible. And I think that one of the biggest problems with our profession, we've got such wonderful people who are SLPs and OTs, right? Like literally the best people, but we are really bad at boundaries, right? And what
Yeah.
happens is when we're bad at boundaries because we put other people first, which again is lovely and is very caring and very
Yeah.
lovely, but the problem is that it leads to burnout.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you continue to put everyone other than yourself first, you're going to get burned out, and that's what we are all trying, or we should be all trying to avoid.
Or that hamster wheel of like, like I feel like this. Well, why do you feel like this? Did you change your boundaries? Like, did you let somebody in? Did you see an after schooler? Did you pick up a non-ideal client that you were just coerced by the parent telling you that? Like, no, it's a business. And like, that's what I tell a lot of people, that you have to switch. You have a business mindset and a therapist mindset. And I have a very strong boundary ability to tell people no. And that's a superpower. I can tell anybody no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you should, right? Because again, you have to protect your peace, you have to protect your family, you have to protect your business, all of these things, right? And you and I see this both all the time. The people who struggle the most in private practice do not establish those boundaries, or they establish them but they don't stick to them.
Yes.
Right? And that is like a giant problem. So whenever I'm in, Facebook groups, whether they're, other people's Facebook group, my Facebook groups, even like the free one, I see this all the time with all of the people who have struggling practices, are not sticking to their own boundaries, right? They're doing just what you said. They're treating people like above and beyond. They're treating the wrong kinds of clients for them. They're accepting payer sources or rates that are not profitable, like all of these things. And if they just said, you know what, I'm going to be firm on these things, yes, they won't be able to help everyone, but that's the point.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really hard for people to understand that, who are so used to wanting to help everyone. But the truth is that you can't help everyone. And if you try in the process, you're going to get burned out.
Yeah. And then, yes, like, and then you should always be your number one priority. Like if you're an empty cup, then like, what am I pouring into my marriage or my children, like, or even my clients that I do have for that dedicated amount of time? So it's very important. And I also honor boundaries for my therapist. So when I'm staffing or I'm asking them, I am giving them the ability to say yes or no, because I wasn't given that ability when I worked for a company, and I was, not forced, but I had to learn feeding therapy. And that was a huge problem for me because I'm a picky eater and I don't want anything to do with food. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to pretend to like feed it. I don't want to do it. And I remember just like dreading going to work. And now compared to the mindset that I have now, that creating the job that I love and seeing the kids that really fill my cup and like allowing women to see children and the types of populations that they want to see, it's just a magical, even more fulfilling than I had even set out. I thought I was just going to be me on Mondays and Wednesdays and who, you know, come and get it. But now, you know, like I said, doors of opportunity open, and sometimes I walk through them and sometimes I shut them. So it's also important for boundaries to not accept and not do too much. All right. So the world of Instagram always wants you to be out there doing all the most. Okay. Like, that's why you never see me create content, because I refuse to allow the internet to tell me how much time I should be creating content to have a certain amount of followers. It does not matter to me, right? So my purpose is to have brand awareness, that you know I'm here, and then to continue to do a good job in the businesses that I'm building. Okay. And so that's why Instagram takes the very final totem pole, right at the bottom. But an opportunity that I shut down is a play place that I've established relationships with. She asked me if I wanted to come rent a room, and I said no. I appreciate that. However, I have the perfect fit for you, and it's called Play Wisely. They're a developmental play group, but they really wanted to come into this community. And so I connected those two women-owned businesses, and the first free class is tomorrow. And so they have already, they've already up and connected and going to make a difference for these neurotypical kids, neurodivergent kids. And so because I shut that door for me, because I don't need an office space, that is why in our marketing, we're standing out because we're mobile. I was able to take that opportunity and give it to somebody else. And I'm such a firm believer in the more you give, the more you get. And so it's not all about, this is not the Marcia show, right? It's about my purpose, walking in my purpose and fulfilling and giving to others.
Yeah, totally. Because it does come back to you, right? Because like, think about, you know, you'll probably get more referrals from that person, right? Or like the center or whatever else. And they know like what you do and what you don't do. And I think that when you set boundaries like that and other people recognize that, they are then more likely to stick to those boundaries, right? And I think that that's also really, really important. One of the things that I liked you said, I caught it, was very subtle, but people who are listening to this, did you hear her say businesses? Right? Like things that I'm doing for the businesses that I have, right? And like, I think that when people get into private practice, they really think about just like the private practice part of their business, right? Just like the one-to-one clients or evaluations, or really just the therapy part. But I really love that you've expanded your business beyond just therapy, right?
Yes.
To do, you know, do the branding stuff. I couldn't find my purple pen, but I have this, you guys see, and I know this is going to be backwards, but I think, look at that. Look how pretty these pens are. So I ordered them in navy and in purple, and I love purple, and I can't believe I've got a whole bag of them right over there. But anyway, but I love to see like what people are doing again with their businesses. Like, you know, we're very similar in that we just love to support, you know, other business owners. And so I just love, you know,
We're
seeing
like
what you're doing.
cheerleaders. I mean, I really was a cheerleader for a very long time, but like we are definitely some SLP entrepreneurial cheerleaders.
Yes, totally. And I was never a cheerleader, and I can't dance, so no one should ever have to witness me cheerleading in that way. But I will, yeah, do the same as you, right? Like, we tag people, we tell people about other people's events, like, you know, the, what is it, rising tides lift all boats, or whatever, right? It's an important thing for us to support each other, especially in the world of speech pathology, because like, people don't have, like, it's not a real business minded community of people, right? And so we also, I think, have to support each other in that way, because people don't always understand the, like, business owners as SLPs.
Yes, and they're very intrigued by it. They're like, "Wait, what?" Because I had to open SpeechStars branding as an LLC, because in the state of Texas, it is if you hold a professional license, you have to do a PLLC. So that is why there are two separate entities, and that is why when I first started, I didn't brand it right away. I just did a sub logo of what I had already built and already paid for. And it was like $100. And I was like, that's just gonna have to do. So sometimes, guys, I'm saying it can just be a place filler, right? And I just did a rebrand to basically show what I want for the future of this LLC, for this to be like something that I grow and continue to help therapists with marketing and branding.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so important. One of the things I remember that you said and you kind of alluded to it tonight, but the last time that I interviewed you for the podcast was you really talked about attracting your right market, right? And by branding your practice and your businesses in a certain way, you're attracting a certain like type of people as well as perhaps like repelling, other types of people or whatever. So what would you say to people who are like thinking about marketing and how does marketing work and wanting to attract everybody? You've taken kind of the opposite approach. Can you explain why you've done that?
Um, okay, so I am the modern mom. And so I basically look at providers as, would I call you to treat my child? Would I allow you to come into my home? Because there's a certain amount of trust factor that when you're branding a mobile practice that you have to establish. And so that was really important. And then I also noticed that just as a whole in marketing, a lot of estheticians and my girlfriends that are CEOs in different fields had really knocked down digital marketing with their branded photos and their aesthetics and all of that. So that was important. So I took that aesthetics out from other industries and basically brought it into our world, because our ideal clients are modern moms, and we don't, like, when I talk about Google Business Profile and the importance of it. So if you all are just starting out, make sure that you have an optimized Google Business Profile, because if you're either going to be a word of mouth referral in the Facebook moms groups, or they're going to Google you. Okay. Those are our three major stops right now. And so in order to do that, make sure that that Google Business Profile showcases your skills, and it backs your brand. So not only is it an aesthetically pleasing brand, but you can go read our 55-star reviews, and I'm backing our brand, our high quality. And then, like you said, that quote of, you don't have to be an expert to start your practice. And like, I have chills now, because I have taken, I'm a course junkie, but so many CEUs to tailor to my exact ideal clients to make me great. And my private practice has allowed me to do that. Before, I had to be a generalist, and now I no longer have to do that. And you don't have to either in your private practice, for those listening. So it's important to back your brand. It's important to optimize your Google Business Profile, and it's important to have your brand be cohesive across all touch points.
Yes, totally. Totally. And so similarly, what would you say to people who are like, but Marcia, I'm not good at marketing. Like how I'm, air quotes, just an SLP. How can I possibly do anything with marketing?
Well, I think marketing is scary because people don't really know what it is. And so you are your marketer, right? So everybody you come into contact with should know what you do. Because you never know who that person is going to need that service, going to tell somebody that you need that service. Relationships, like marketing is relationship building. If you have the ability to connect with your clients, you have the ability to connect with other adults and other businesses and other industries to attract more clients to your business. So marketing is a huge relationship building super sauce. Like, and once you can really understand that, like how, like to get comfortable with that, it's very important. So you're going to have to get out of your own way.
Yeah, totally. And to kind of add to that a little bit is like, you want to, whatever you're portraying, you want to be able to attract people, right? So I think that one of the reasons why SLPs get nervous about marketing is they're like, I don't want to be pushy. Well, that's like kind of you do have to put yourself out there, right? But you don't have to be pushy about it. But what you do have to do is make sure that people know that you exist, and when they go to your website, when they read your Google reviews or whatever, they are going to self-select, are they or their child or their spouse or their loved one good for you, right? So all you're doing is kind of saying like, hey, here's who I am, here's what I do, here's how I help people, and you're showing that to the world, and then you attract the right kind of people. And Marcia, people go to your website and it's like, someone with aphasia, they're an adult, maybe they have Parkinson's, whatever else. They're going to come to your site and immediately be like, I don't think this is right for me. I'm going to go find somebody else.
Yes.
Right. But that attraction marketing is really important. And that's fun, right? It's
Yep.
fun to attract the right people. It's not scary. It's not pushy. You're attracting. And I think that's awesome.
Yes. And it's powerful, and you're helping, but you're also saving everybody's time. You're finding your right fit client, and you're not, like, I can't And I always refer out, like I screen everybody that comes our way. We are not for everybody. And you're able to determine what your values and your missions are in your private practice. And I know what we're not. And so that's who, I won't staff with.
Yeah,
Or I'll
because
fire. I have fired clients, guys. Again, boundaries. This was I missed this one, but I apologize. It's time to go. You're the business owner. You have that power to do it. You don't no longer have to sit dreading driving to a client that is not your right fit. You don't have to save them until discharge. You can fire a client.
yes. And all you have to do is refer them to
Yeah.
someone else, refer them to another provider, right?
Yes.
Because the next thing
In a
I already have in my
professional
head, because I see
way.
this all the time, everyone's like, but what about client abandonment? I'm like, you're not leaving them high and dry, right? You're being honest and you're saying, look, I don't think that I'm the right therapist for you or for your child. Here are another, 2 or 3 practices in this area that I think would be better fits, and that's it, right? Then they go to another place, right? It's not, everyone gets all crazy about client abandonment, which is not what this is, right? This is you being mature and being honest and saying, I'm not the right fit for your client, or you're not the right fit for my practice, whatever it is, and that's okay.
Yes, it's gonna be okay.
It's totally
The
gonna
first
be okay.
cut's the deepest. Once you fire one, you got it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I
No,
want you to do a good job screening up front so that you won't have to. But I'm not perfect, so some have slipped through the cracks that they shouldn't.
yeah. But that's a lesson too, right? And I know that, like, when you first start your practice, I mean, listen, I try my damnedest to try to help people avoid mistakes,
Yeah.
right? But there will be things in your practice that are learning opportunities, right? And so just like we tell our clients, like, it's okay, like, you made a mistake, it was a learning opportunity, whatever, like, we have to give ourselves that grace too, and realize that you learn more from air quotes
Yeah.
mistakes than you do doing everything right all the time, right? So Marcia, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I bet you didn't have the screening process in place that you do, like on lockdown, like you do, until you made a couple,
Fire
like,
one.
air quotes
Yes.
mistakes,
Correctamundo.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
so I think that's another thing for people to realize, is that yes, you're going to start your practice and you're going to, get it as set up as possible. And if y'all are, in the start program, we're going to make sure that you're doing everything like legally on the up and up and whatnot. But when it comes to like how you decide to run your business, that does come over time and it comes with experience. And that's just kind of part of learning how to think like a business owner too, right? Like, just like in grad school, we learn how to think like clinicians every time we take classes, every time we did clinicals, every placement that we had, right? In your business, as you're learning to be a business owner and learning how to think like a business owner, that comes from being faced with challenges and opportunities and doing things the right way sometimes and doing things the wrong thing sometimes.
Yes, but if you never try, you'll never know. And then the fear will stop you and you'll be paralyzed and then you won't move forward and you'll be like, oh, I wish I had that practice, but you can do it.
Totally. Okay. So as we start to wrap up, what would you say to people who are listening, maybe who do have young children, right? And they're like, wow, I would love to be able to spend more time with my kids, but this, thing, but that thing. What would you tell people?
I would tell people that if you establish the boundaries of the times that you want to be away from your family or whenever you're going to get your care or whatever your goal is, stick to them and the clients will come. They might not come. It will take a while. Okay. It's not just going to be like you open your doors and you're full. It will take a while. You need patience. And if you have systems, then you won't overwhelm yourself. Okay. Because if everything is systematized in your house, in your business, then you can do this. It's when you feel so out of control when things aren't in systems. And I feel like when you systemize, I made like a literal goal in 2022 to systemize our house and our life and what was going to happen in our household, right? And so now I'm working on this year's goal was my digital systemizing, like organizing my Google Drives and all of that, because I had never even used a Mac before I started my practice. I was like, where is Microsoft Office? Like, I had a PC in college, guys. Like, what is this? I don't know how to use it. So I remember my husband got me a laptop. He's like, what you gonna do with the laptop? I'm gonna figure it out. So systemizing, creating your boundaries for when you actually want to work is going to be your magic sauce to creating a flexible practice that works for you when you have young children.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So if people have been watching or listening to this and they're like, wow, I like this Marcia person. I gotta learn more about her. Where should people come find you?
This is my personal brand Instagram page. You can always slide in my DMs. Like, I am available. You probably won't see me talking my phone because I don't really want to do it, guys. I'm very much an extrovert in real life. I just, the phone thing. And then Speech Stars Branding is my LLC that I do the branding and the marketing for SLPs. And I am accepting pen orders until Friday. So they are stylus pens that you can get your logo on. And I use these for marketing. You drop them off at the preschools, where whoever the parents, like, they're just such high luxury pens that when I tried to go find pens, you had to buy them in bulk, and you have to buy like hundreds of pens to get them to be a reasonable price. So I found a solution that you can buy 50 and put your logo on them.
Keep talking because I want to show people what these look like.
Okay. And so then Speech Stars Branding, and then I just have the website kit and then stock photos. If you also want to request certain stock photos, I have a shoot coming up in August, and it's actually going to be at that play place. They're allowing me to do the stock photos to get some occupational therapy, some more group kids pictures, maybe some reading, some Myo. There's the pens. Holler back. So yeah, that's all, guys. That's it. I mean, if you would have told me when I was listening to your podcast in 2017 that I was number one going to be on your podcast, I was like terrified and had like the biggest butterflies ever on the first time. But now I'm comfortable. I'm like, hey, Jena, what's up? I met you in real life. So it's not as nerve wracking, but I should just serve as an example to stay at home mom out there that wants to come back to the field, but doesn't want to return to her prior setting, that it's possible. And Jena has carved the way for us with her programs, and I took her Grow program, and that's all the tools that I've never been in the messy middle because I was always prepared. I took it before I knew that I was going to expand, so I didn't have to be a messy middle. It was a systematized growth and very like organic.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for the compliment. And also just like, I love anyone who's just paving the way for other people, right? Like, I think that, there's, we went to grad school, we had a great time. We learned a lot about like the clinical life, but once you get out into the world, for those of us who do want to do businesses and do not just like, just do a business, but do like a great business, like it takes time and it takes experience and it takes learning from people. So Marcia, thank you for being another person who's out there kind of teaching, your fellow SLPs how to have like beautifully branded businesses so that they can attract their ideal clients so that they can help more people.
Yay! And then decrease burnout.
And decrease burnout. Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show, and listeners, please, follow Marcia and send her a message and everything else. But as every time I say this, but thank you so much for listening. And I'd love to help you start your private practice and grow it. So if you want information on that, just send me a DM, and we'll talk then. Thanks, Marcia.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, Jena. See you soon.
Bye.